I'm excited for today's training, Why Federal Buyers Don't Like You. Don't take it personal, right? Like is different than dislike, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm excited that we're able to get started. It's a great sunny day here on the East Coast where I'm at, and that always makes it fun for the training that we do. Let me turn off this caption so I don't forget to do that. And hey, while we're waiting for me to get started on the official training, I just wanted to make a quick announcement that we did put the November 2022 Small Business Specialist Directory out on our website. You can see the link right there at www.govconchamber.com. And this directory has over 1,000 names of small business specialists within it. This took thousands of hours for us to put together, and we've been keeping it up to date now with a lot of people actually providing input, which makes it even better because now we did a huge lift on it, but it's kind of crowdsourced where we all begin to own the quality and the upkeep of this. But it's a great directory for you to be able to use to reach out to small business specialists within federal agencies. So go take a look at that. It's at www.govconchamber.com. You can download it. Just need to drop your email in so that we can let you know of new updates or something. But it's pretty quick to download. So make sure you have that because it's awesome. One caveat though, don't download it and then like spam everybody in there. They'll know it. They'll talk to each other and they'll get mad at you, right? Just use it to save you, hundreds of hours of research time to gather this data, but use it strategically, right? Not to tell you exactly how to do your job. Whatever you do, don't spam when you look at the directory. The directory is awesome, though. It's got a lot of extra information in there besides the small business specialists, OSDBUs, et cetera, in there. But 1,000 names, I spent a long time researching that when I was a small business owner. And so we do this as a labor of love. That way you don't have to do it. We do the research, you do the calling. Okay, I think we're good to go. Go ahead and download that from the govconchamber.com, and I am going to get started. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training where I teach tips, processes, and procedures for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to achieve the success that we want. And that's what I want for you. That's why we do this training day after day. Do me a favor before we get started, help buyers and me and the other people in the community remember who you are. Put your company name and your core competency into the chat. 2 or 3 words is perfect. It makes it kind of easy for us to remember. The other thing, by the way, as we go through in this training today and every day, you've got the community within the chat. These are fellow people in the GovCon space, and engage with them, chat with them, let them know you're open to connections. That's your community, right? I'm going to provide the training. The community is yours to manage, right? So everybody play well and play nice. And then also one last thing, as I go forward, I'm going to be talking a lot and asking you to put stuff into the chat that lets me know that you understand what I'm saying. So please do that when I ask for it. Okay, today we're going to talk about why federal buyers don't like you, right? And it's don't read too much into it, but one of the things I wanted to show you is just where this training fits into the context of the 7-step process. And so right here is the 7-step process, and you can see in the middle is relationships. In order to find the best opportunities or right winning proposals, you need to have relationships in place. And getting federal buyers to like you is an important part of that. If you don't have this 7-step process, feel free to just ask for it in the chat and we'll get you a link to it. But today's training is all around relationships, right? That's what it means when we talk about getting somebody to like you. That's not outreach. That's not opportunities. It's right there in the relationships. And so in this training, I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why federal buyers might not like you. We're going to go through these pretty fast. The 5 reasons are no contract vehicles, no past performance, no focus or niche, because you don't care about them, right? That'll be an interesting one. And the last one is because they don't know you yet, right? So we'll talk about those and start driving forward. Let's go ahead and move to the first one. Actually, I just want to make sure we're good on the sound and everything. It looks like we are. Good. Okay, one reason why a federal buyer might not like you is that you don't have contract vehicles, right? And one of the things I wanted to pause for a second, and I can't remember if I had this somewhere else, but it's important that I say this right now. is that there's a big difference between them not liking you, right? Why federal buyers don't like you. There's a big difference between don't like and dislike, right? I dislike pistachio ice cream. I don't like bubblegum ice cream because I never had it, right? So I don't know if I like it or don't like it. There's a big difference between somebody and a federal buyer disliking you, right? That's an active, hey, I don't like this person. Compared to what I'm trying to teach you today is why they don't like you. And so as we go forward, just keep that in mind. There's a difference between dislike and don't like. Okay, so one of the main reasons I mentioned is that you don't have contract vehicles, right? And contract vehicles, one of the attractions to the buyer, one of the reasons that it makes them like you more when you have a contract vehicle is that it minimizes the negotiation, the work for the contracting officer, because these are pre-negotiated. If you think about GSA schedule, 8A Stars 3 or Oasis or any of these 100,000 plus contract vehicles that are out there, they're negotiated already. The government has put a bid out. A bunch of companies has responded to them. And if there are multiple award contracts, meaning more than one company has won that contract vehicle, if these are multiple awards, then they've already had the competition. They've gotten rid of the companies that didn't qualify to fit in, and the ones that are in qualified. They've proved their past performance. They proved their capabilities. They proved their pricing, things like that, right? And so when they look at you and you have a contract vehicle, it's already been pre-competed. That minimizes any negotiation they have to do going forward. If they buy off a GSA, they can say, as long as we're going with those rates, that's good. And GSA has already negotiated the rates basically on behalf of the entire federal government. Another thing to keep in mind about why a contract vehicle might be a reason they don't like you is because a contracting officer might be hearing from leadership about, hey, you need to push these contract vehicles, which are our favorites within our agency, or hey, you need to be pushing best in class, right? There's these best in class contract vehicles. Fortunately for you 8A Stars 3 contract holders, that's a best in class contract vehicle. But there's this push for best in class contract vehicles out there. Well, that might make them not like you because they need to go somewhere else. They wish they could like you, but they can't like you because they need to like the company that has that best in class contract vehicle. Another reason that goes along for contract vehicles is that not using a contract vehicle. Think about no contract vehicle at all. It just increases the contracting officer's workload. If I just stick with the example of the 8A Stars 3, there's 1,000 companies on there. They've already been vetted out of the 100 or 300,000 small businesses or whatever that's out there. There's these 1,000 contract holders. And if a contracting officer goes to that contract vehicle, the work is pretty minimal. If they have to go and do a whole new contract for you to be able to try to compete on, well, they have to put it on SAM. They have to do a lot of competition. They have to do maybe a sources sought, right? And then deal with those responses. Then they have to deal with an RFP and many responses. But a contract vehicle, they can put it out and say, hey, you got 3 days to get back to us. You got 5 days to get back to us, whatever it is. So they can turn it around really fast, minimize the workload. Plus, there's certain ones like 8A Stars 3 that have a up to $10 million no protest clause. Basically, it says any award that's made up to $10 million basically cannot be protested, right? And that's a big deal because it reduces the friction of the workload that's on that contracting officer. So let me give you 2 tips before I move on to number 2. First tip is subcontract with people who are on your preferred contract. So like 8A Stars 3, go find an 8A Stars 3 contract holder and ask to get on that as a named or unnamed subcontractor where you can participate on task orders and work on that contract vehicle, hoping for it to be recompeted. Or you can just buy a contract vehicle, whole nother topic, but you can definitely do that. Go buy a company that's already got a contract vehicle. Second tip is be patient. If you're new, don't rush to get into contract vehicles. One of the big rushes that I see is, especially us IT companies, we come in, we think we have to get a GSA contract vehicle, right? Hey, we got to get on GSA. No, you don't. Don't rush into that. A whole bunch of people have GSA contract vehicles and have no idea how to win on it because a contract vehicle is just a credit card. You still have to go out and find the need and drive the need to you and that contract vehicle. So there's all sorts of work, but be patient because if you think about a GSA contract vehicle, generally they require 3 years of past performance or experience. So take your time. There's a lot that you can learn from being a subcontractor. So go ahead and do that and be patient. If you understand the value of contract vehicles to your sales effort, do me a favor in the chat, put contract vehicles. Just let me know you're tracking on what I'm trying to teach here. and I'm going to move on to the second reason why federal buyers might not like you, right? So another reason federal buyers might not like you is that you don't have any past performance, or you don't have the right past performance. And I'll talk about that. So one of the reasons not having past performance is scary and might make a federal buyer not like you is because they're afraid of the unknown. Federal buyers are risk averse. These contracting officers have a responsibility for spending the dollars wisely, the federal contract dollars out there, the taxpayers' dollars. They have to spend it wisely, and they have to make sure that they can justify why they bought what they bought from who they bought it from. And so that makes them risk averse, right? And they're afraid of the unknown. If you have no past performance, you're asking them to take a risk on you. You don't have to do that. Go get subcontracting and then come back and try to knock on their door. Another thing to keep in mind is that past performance, when you do have it, it's borrowed credibility. They begin to like you because you have the past performance, and the past performance is saying, hey, the Army liked us. Maybe you would like us as well because the Army gave us a contract, or Department of Education gave us a contract. This is borrowed credibility, basically, with past performance. I think basically is the word of the day. Somebody put that down. We'll track that. So past performance is borrowed credibility. Past performance, right? The reason they need you to have this so that they can like you is that past performance is proof of your company's skill, right? Just your company's core competency. It's proof of your company's staff, the people who can staff up the job for the government, whether it's construction or IT services, et cetera. And it's also proof of your company's ability to manage a contract. That actually is a concern of the government. If I give you a contract, can you manage it? Can you kick it off correctly? Can you staff it up correctly? Can you make sure the deliverables are being met? Can you make sure the payments are being done correctly? And you bring it full circle to the last tip in this proof of your company's stability. It's proof of your company's ability. Past performance is proof of your company's ability, financial stability, right? If you have past performance, they can look in and see that all the billing stuff went fine, and they can see that you were able to keep your people on. Retention is tied to financial stability. If you don't have financial stability and there's a hiccup in how fast you can get paid, then how can you keep your employees happy? If you can't keep your employees happy and paid, how can they do the job? So when you don't have that past performance, those are some of the things that might be running through the contracting officer's head. The last thing on the past performance is that what they want, the federal buyers are looking for that make them like you even more is the right past performance. So the right past performance might be with their agency, right? That would be perfect. But you could also be a similar agency. So if you're doing past performance at the Army and you go over into the Navy, well, they can sit there and say, at least you play in the defense sector, right? If you're an HHS and you've done work with CDC, maybe that's attractive to NIH more than it would be to the Army because you're in the Department of Health and Human Services, right? So their agency or a similar agency. The right past performance might be the same or similar size scope of the project. So how big is that workload? For example, I used to do Microsoft SharePoint migrations. If I'm going into an office that has 50,000 or 100,000 users, they're looking for me to have past performance of not 50 to 100 users migrating them, but that I've done work of 25,000 to 100,000 user migrations, something in similar size scope. And then the same thing along that vein is same size or similar size value, right? How much money was that contract? If it was a $5 million contract, then they can see me being able to handle a $5 million contract or even a 10. But if I have past performances that are $5 million contracts, they might get a little nervous at a $25 million or more contract. So finding that similar size contract, the closer you are to the contracts that they're trying to let out, the more they begin to like you, right? So if you understand the value of past performance to your sales effort, do me a favor, put past performance in the chat. Give me a chance to drink some water. It's funny, I got a mouse that's just not working on me. Okay, number three. Third reason that somebody might, or a federal buyer might not like you is a lack of focus or no niche, right? And what I mean by this is that if you're in the general construction space, somebody reached out to me the other day and they said they're a general contractor, but I could tell it was just them. And so when you see that, that's not a focus or a niche. And what I told them was niche down. It's the same thing as if you're in the IT business. You say, hey, we're in information technology. That's too broad of a term. And it makes them not like you because they're nervous about what you say you do when you say basically do everything in construction or IT. But if you niche down, if you focus down, you might say, hey, I don't do general construction, or I'm not a general contractor. I'm a painter. I do painting really well, internal painting or inside painting or whatever. Or you might say, it's not information technology that I'm in, but Google Cloud, right? We're experts at Google Cloud. If you talk to that, now you've given them a niche. Now they begin to like you because they see where you fit and they see where you might be an expert. Government buyers, they're not looking for jacks of all trade, right? They want a master of one trade. They want a subject matter expert. They're looking for trusted advisors, people like you to come in and talk to them about their challenges, their goals around whatever they're doing, whether it's building a new hospital or building, whether it's rolling out zero trust cybersecurity throughout their agency. They want a firm that can deliver on that and can advise them on that. And so they're looking for you to be an expert in that space. They're not looking for you to be a generalist because frankly, they're a generalist. And so if you're not focused and have a niche, if you can't show that you're a subject matter expert or your company is a subject matter expert firm around a certain core competency, then they might not like you, right? They might not be there. So niche down to win contracts is my advice, obviously, to you. Help these federal buyers see where you fit into the need. If you say Google Cloud, like I said a minute ago, they begin to go, oh, well, this is all Amazon and Microsoft over here, but we've got this one command who's trying to roll out Google Cloud. They're a whole Google blah, 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 right? You can fit in there, right? We've been looking for somebody who's an expert on Google Cloud. We get a lot of people who say they're cloud experts, but Google Cloud is different from Amazon Cloud. So if you niche down, you begin to help them see where you can fit in, begin to see your value. They begin to see your value, and perhaps you begin to win contracts or at least identify opportunities where you can fit in. And certainly they begin to like you, right? So if you believe in that old line, that the niches are in the riches, do me a favor, put niche down into the chat. Niche, niche down into the chat. How did you get niche down so fast? It's like, I know there's like a little delay, but I just saw somebody have niche down and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's super fast. Okay, so let me move on here. Hey, actually, let me take a quick moment to talk to you about the GovCon Chamber sustaining membership, right? Before I continue, I just want to thank our sustaining members. They're the ones who help make this training available. And I want to invite you to become one today. I started the GovCon Chamber of Commerce to help small businesses like you understand that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And when followed, that process is going to lead to success. We've provided hundreds of trainings, step-by-step roadmaps, webinars, and this networking opportunity, even like you're experiencing today. But the GovCon Chamber of Commerce is not government funded, and I'm not Jeff Bezos, right? It's just me, my team, and you. And so if you find the value in training, our tools, this community, do me a favor, visit govconchamber.com and become a member today. Okay, let's go to tip number 4, why federal buyers don't like you. So now we get into ones that I really dig deep into the meats. The contract vehicle might be hard, right? You got to wait your turn, get on it. It might take you some time. But this one here that I put down about why federal buyers don't like you is because you don't care about them. People don't care about what you know until they know that you care. Have you heard that before? People don't care about what you know until they know that you care. And it's really easy for a federal buyer to see if you care about them. And if they get the impression that you don't care about them, then they don't like you, right? Again, it's not dislike and it's not like, they just don't like you. And you want to help them get to like you by showing that you do care about them. And so I want you to ask yourself and think about these on whether you're guilty of any of these following points that I'm going to mention. And while you're thinking about whether you're guilty of them, flip them around and just turn them into action items. If you are saying, oh, I'm going to do those, or I'm going to do it the right way. So the first thing is, and one of the biggest ways that we show that we don't care is that we don't read our federal buyer strategic documents. They put out strategic plans. They put out budget documents at the end of the year. They put out annual reports talking about last year. They put out industry day slides. They put out slick sheets. They have all sorts of content that they put out that are basically laying out their strategy for the next year, for the next 5 years, and DoD sometimes for the next 30 years, right? They lay these out. And if you're not reading their strategic documents, then do you really understand them, right? Are you guilty of that? Right, and don't worry about it in the chat, just in your head, answer these questions. Are you guilty of writing proposals without ever meeting program office folks, the people who actually have the need, the people who wrote the requirement documents, right? Have you written proposals when you haven't even met with the proposal or the program office? If you have, how much could you really know about them? It's just something that you got to look at and ask yourself, right? Another one is not following or engaging with them on social media. Later this week, I've got a training on social selling for government contractors. And this talks about how to do social selling using social media tools, including your website and some others. But think about this. Are you guilty of not following or engaging with them on LinkedIn as an example, or at vendor outreach sessions or whatever? Are you not engaging with your buyers, whether it's the program office, contracting office, or the small business office, right? These three main groups of people, roles of people, they're people you can engage with. And if you're not engaging with them, then they can't really like you, right? And then the last one is, are you talking more than you're listening? There's that line that says, we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, use it in proportion, right? Listen twice as much as you talk. And, that's an important question to ask yourself. Are you talking in meetings more than you're listening? I talked to a customer last week, and I asked them in the meeting, how did it go? What was the conversation going on? What percentage do you feel like your team talked compared to the government buyer, the federal buyer? And they said 60-40. And then they went, you know what? I think it was more like 75-25 that we were talking. And what I want you to do is reverse that, right? It should be 25% of the time you're talking and 75% of the time you're listening, because you're trying to get them to expand on their needs, on their goals. Understanding where your solutions and products can fit can only happen when you understand truly where they're at. Here's a pro tip for you that I like to do when I'm in a meeting that enables me to keep asking questions and briefly get the ball out of my court and back into theirs, is I say, can I pull a thread on that? So if I'm asking them to tell me about a SharePoint migration, just using my past experience, a SharePoint migration, and they say, we've got 100,000 users, I might say, well, can I pull a thread on that user count really quick? How is that divided? Like, are they like all under one command, or do you have a bunch of really disparate commands under a centralized SharePoint environment? What I'm trying to get them to say is that, oh no, like these people don't talk to these people. And it's like perfect, because what we tend to do is maybe roll our migrations out in phases, and we might try to do a gap analysis and find the easiest groups to work with. And you start your migration with that, right? So I'm trying to pull a thread on just even the user count. If you do that, you can kind of throw the ball back to them, and then you start listening more than you talk. If you understand the importance about caring about a customer, do me a favor, put I care into the chat. Show me you care. Put I care in the chat. Okay, number 5, last one, on why federal buyers don't like you. And this is, I think, my favorite. One reason federal buyers might not like you is because they don't know you yet. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. You probably have heard that before, right? People buy from those they know, like, and trust. If they don't know you, how can they like you, right? And that's a really simple thing. But, for me, whenever I think about simple things, I love them because they're just eye-opening. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I actually helping my customers know me? And if they don't know me, then how can they begin to like and trust me? And so one of the ways that you can help them know you so that they can begin to like you is just be visible. If you're visible, you can get known. So here's some examples on how you can be visible. Your dynamic small business search tool profile. Go into your small business profile. That's made up of SAM and DSBS. Go watch all sorts of training. I've done it before. But that is one of the number one ways to get a buyer to know you. Vendor outreach sessions. Go to a vendor outreach session and say hi to everybody. Everybody. Not one less person than everybody, right? LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn and start putting content down or engaging, like I said earlier, with your federal buyers. YouTube. Put some content out around your expertise. If you're doing elevators, or if you're doing manufacturing parts and you're doing it in the United States, we'll talk about that. Do a quick video on it. Doesn't have to be your face. If you're not comfortable with this, you can just do a handful of slides in a 5-minute video. But if you put it out there and your buyers are looking for some information around what you sell, and that's the content you're posting on YouTube, then they will begin to know you, which will lead to them liking you and then trusting you, right? I call that social selling. All those different tips I talked about, that's social selling. All of it except for DSBS is about engaging, and engaging out there is social selling. And the last thing is you need to keep this in mind of being proactive. I submit that you need to keep this in mind, right? You have to help them know you so they can like you. It's your responsibility. But if you take responsibility for them knowing you, then you're also gaining responsibility and control over whether they like you and whether they trust you. You're pulling them into your world, and then you're guiding them down the path to liking you and to trusting you. And when you do that, you will have a relationship built that leads to opportunities, proposals, and sales, right? If you remember the whole 7-step process. So if you believe in the maxim, know, like, and trust, do me a favor, put KLT into the chat. Let me know you're tracking on that. KLT. Okay, in this training, we discussed reasons federal buyers might not like you. But please do me a favor. Remember, not liking you is far different from disliking you. They don't dislike you. They just don't like you. And we want them to start liking you, right? So if you address the reasons I shared today, then you'll find more federal buyers liking you. And people do business, right, with those they know, like, and trust. And that's what I want for you. If you found value in today's training, do me a favor, put thanks into the chat. We always love to see that and appreciate hearing it. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.